The knock at midnight. The night was cold and quiet. The wind howled through the trees, carrying dust and dead leaves across the dry ground. Inside a small wooden cabin, far away from any city or settlement, a human man sat by the fire. His name was Reed, ex-soldier. Lived alone now. No friends, no enemies, just peace. But tonight, peace was broken. Knock, knock, knock. He froze. No one ever came here. Not at night, not without warning, and never with such a soft, desperate knock. He picked up the old rifle leaning against the wall and moved toward the door. Step by step, quiet, careful, alert. Knock, knock, knock. Not loud, not urgent, almost weak. He unlocked the door slowly and opened it just a little. What he saw made his heart pause. A woman stood in the shadows. Not human, not completely. Her skin was soft violet, glowing faintly in the moonlight. Her eyes were big, teal, and full of fear. Behind her stood two small children, both clinging to her long, torn robe. She was barefoot, dirty. Her long, silver hair fell over her shoulders, tangled and wet from the cold mist. Her voice came out soft, like a whisper carried by the wind. "Please. We mean no harm." Reed gripped his rifle tighter. "What are you?" The woman bowed her head. "A mother, that's all." The kids didn't speak, didn't move, just looked at him with eyes too mature for their size. He scanned the area behind her. No ships, no soldiers, just emptiness. "Why here?" he asked. She looked up, her lips trembling. "We heard stories. That humans have hearts." He didn't know whether to laugh or cry at that. "I'm not running a hotel," he muttered. She stepped closer, not too close. Just enough so the firelight inside touched her face. She was beautiful, not just in the alien way. Something about her face, so tired, yet still soft, made him hesitate. "I can clean," she said. "I can cook. My children are quiet. We don't eat much." "And what do you want in return?" he asked, his voice sharp. She swallowed. "If you give us shelter, I can warm your bed." Silence. Even the wind outside seemed to stop for a second. Reed stared at her. That sentence, it wasn't seductive, it was survival. She wasn't flirting. She was offering the only thing she thought had value. Her body. He sighed, lowered his gun. "I don't need your bed, and I don't trust aliens." Her voice broke. "Then let us stay outside just one night. My children are cold." Reed looked at the kids. One of them, the smaller one, had tears in his eyes. The other, slightly older, held his sister's hand, tightly. He stepped back and opened the door wide. "Only one night," he said. She nodded and stepped in. Her feet barely made a sound on the wooden floor. The children followed, silent as shadows. Reed closed the door behind them. She sat by the fire, her hands shaking. She didn't speak, didn't beg, just watched the flames like someone who hadn't seen warmth in years. The kids curled up beside her, already asleep within minutes. They didn't complain, didn't cry, just rested, like they knew it might not last. Reed stood in the corner, rifle still in hand. "What's your name?" he asked. The woman looked at him, eyes soft. "They called me Lyra. Before they took everything." "Who?" She didn't answer. Only whispered, "You'll know. If they find us." Reed stayed quiet. The fire crackled. Outside, the wind picked up again. And inside, in that quiet little cabin in the middle of nowhere, a strange new chapter began. He didn't know it yet, but the moment he opened that door, his life stopped being his own. The deal in the dark, the rain came without warning. Not soft rain, hard slicing drops that slammed against the cabin roof like bullets from the sky. Inside, the fire crackled low. The human, Reed, was still awake, sitting near the window with his rifle across his lap. His eyes flicked to the corner of the room where the alien mother slept with her children, wrapped in the old blanket he had given them. Or at least, he thought she was asleep, but Lyra wasn't. Her eyes were wide open in the dark. She was watching him, not with fear, with something else. After a long silence, she sat up. "Thank you," she whispered. Reed didn't respond, just stared out at the blackness beyond the glass. "You could have left us outside," she said, "like others did before." Reed finally spoke. "I've done worse things than leave people outside." Lyra looked down, her voice trembling. "You've done human things, we all have." Another long silence. She slowly stood and moved toward the fire. The flames lit her features, gentle but weary. She didn't sit too close to him, but close, enough for her voice to reach his ear over the rain. "I want to repay you." "I told you," Reed said without looking at her. "I don't want your bed." She nodded. "I know." There was no shame in her face, no seduction, just calm honesty. "I meant something else." Reed raised an eyebrow. She reached into the folds of her robe and pulled out a small metal cube, smooth, black and glowing with a faint blue light. "What's that?" Reed asked. "A heat core," she replied. "It can power your entire cabin for 3 winters." He looked at it with interest, then suspicion. "What's the catch?" Lyra didn't flinch. "No catch, just let us stay. Not one night, for as long as we need." He stared at her. "Why me?" he finally asked. "Why not a city, a ship, a station?" She shook her head. "Because you don't ask questions. You open the door, you stay quiet, and you protect your ground." She looked him dead in the eye. "You're the last kind man I've seen in years." That hit harder than Reed expected. He turned away from her. "Kind?" he scoffed. "I'm not kind. I'm just tired of burying people." She smiled gently. "Then don't bury us." Suddenly, the older of the 2 alien children stirred. He sat up, alert, not sleepy, like a soldier. He looked at Lyra, then at Reed, and said nothing. Then quietly laid back down. Reed narrowed his eyes. "That boy. He doesn't act like a child." Lyra's smile faded. She tucked the cube back into her robe. "I trained them," she said quietly. "To obey. To survive." "Why?" She hesitated, then sat down slowly. "Because if they made noise, the soldiers would find us." Reed's grip on his rifle tightened. "Who's hunting you?" Lyra looked straight into the fire, her voice dropped. "My own kind." She didn't cry, didn't blink. She just said it like it was a fact, a curse she had accepted. "They called me a traitor, said my children were unclean. Impure. Because of their father?" She nodded. "He was half human. And I loved him." Reed felt something shift in his chest. "And now?" he asked. "You think you'll be safe here?" Lyra looked at him with a strange mix of sadness and courage. "No. But I think you might kill them before they kill us." Reed almost laughed. "You think I'm some hero?" "I think you're dangerous," she said calmly. "But you have rules. That's rare." The firelight flickered. The cabin felt smaller now, tighter, like secrets were pressing against the walls. Reed stood up and walked to the back door, opened it, and stared into the forest. Rain hit his face. Somewhere far away, a faint humming sound echoed through the sky, like a ship, cloaked. "They're searching," she said, standing behind him now. He didn't turn. "I should throw you out before they burn this place." "You could," she said softly, "but I'd still die calling your name." That made him stop. For the first time since the war, Reed felt something dangerous inside him. Trust. He closed the door, turned to her. "You can stay," he said. She smiled. Gently. "But not because I want your heat core," he added. "Or your bed. Then why?" He stared at her with quiet anger. "Because your enemies just became mine." Shadows from her past 3 days passed. Lyra and her children stayed silent, obedient and strangely invisible. Reed barely noticed them move. No noise, no mess. The kids ate quietly, helped with firewood, and vanished into the attic when storms rolled in. Lyra cleaned everything without asking, cooked food even better than his rations. She never asked for his help, never complained. It was peaceful. Too peaceful. And Reed had lived through war. He knew peace this quiet was always a warning. That night, the cabin felt colder than usual, not because the fire was low, but because Lyra was gone. Her blanket was empty. Reed grabbed his rifle and stepped outside. The forest was drenched in moonlight. No wind, no birds, just silence. Then, he saw her. Lyra stood in the clearing behind the cabin, facing the sky, her arms raised. A soft blue light pulsed from her hands, then vanished. Reed shouted, "What are you doing?" She turned slowly, her face pale. "I had to check," she whispered. "Check what?" He marched forward. "You sent a signal, didn't you?" She flinched. "No, I was listening." He aimed his rifle at her. "Don't lie to me." Lyra didn't cry, didn't beg. Instead, she said something that chilled his blood. "They're coming." Back inside the cabin, she sat down and explained everything. Her voice was low but steady, like a soldier confessing at the end of a long war. "There were experiments," she said. "Our leaders wanted hybrid children, stronger, faster, obedient, but not too independent." She looked at her kids sleeping upstairs. "I was one of the selected breeders, not by choice." Reed sat frozen. The gun was still in his hand, but he hadn't raised it again. "I met a human scientist," she continued. "He was kind, smarter than they wanted him to be. We escaped, fell in love, had the children." Reed's jaw tightened. "They hunted us, killed him. I ran." Her fingers traced invisible lines on the wooden floor. "I stayed quiet for 2 years, changed names, changed planets, but they always found me." She finally looked up. "I thought maybe Earth would be different." "It's not," Reed said. "Earth burns just like the rest." Lyra nodded. "But humans, you burn brighter." He should have thrown her out right there. He should have told her to take her children and vanish, but he didn't. Instead, he stood up and walked to the old metal locker beside the fireplace. Inside were things he had buried long ago. Armor, a pulse scanner, his soldier ID. He placed the scanner on the table, powered it up. The signal was faint, but real. A ship, approaching fast. "They'll be here by dawn," Reed muttered. Lyra said nothing. She walked over, gently placed her hand on his shoulder. "You don't have to die for us," she said. He looked at her with cold fire in his eyes. "I'm already dead," he said. "You just gave me a reason to pretend I'm not." Around 3 a.m., the power cut out. The cabin went dark. The fire sizzled. The scanner blinked red, and a low humming sound filled the sky like a beast slowly waking up. Reed opened the gun safe, took out a long-range blaster, a revolver, 2 grenades. "Stay inside," he told her. "And if they find you, kill the lights and hide. Don't run." Lyra didn't argue, but just before he stepped out, she grabbed his arm. "Promise me something." "What?" "If they take me, protect the children. They were never meant to exist, but they do exist, and they matter." Reed looked into her eyes. They glowed faint blue in the dark. Not like a weapon, not like a machine. Like a mother. "I promise," he said, and then he disappeared into the night. Outside, the sky was no longer empty. A sleek black ship hovered above the treetops, silent, no lights, no markings, just the sound, that awful humming. Reed aimed his scope and saw 3 figures drop from the ship, tall, armored, moving like ghosts, alien hunters. They scanned the ground, their helmets buzzed with red light. One of them turned and looked directly toward the cabin. They knew. Reed raised his rifle, then paused. One of the hunters removed their helmet. She looked just like Lyra, only colder, crueler, and her voice echoed across the forest, amplified by a device on her shoulder. Lyra, come out. Your sins are forgiven. We only want the children. Reed's grip tightened on the trigger. But inside the cabin, Lyra stood frozen. She whispered to herself, "She found me. My sister found me." Fire in the fields. The wind picked up fast and sharp, as if the land itself knew war had arrived. Reed crouched behind the water tank outside the cabin, his pulse blaster aimed at the tree line. He'd fought in deserts, in skyships, even on moons made of glass. But this night felt different, because this time he wasn't fighting for a nation. He was fighting for a promise. Inside the cabin, Lyra held her children close. Her eyes were locked on the door, but her mind was back in another time, another world. Her sister's voice still echoed in her head. "Lyra, your sins are forgiven, just give us the children." Forgiven? No, they wanted to erase her mistake. Her children, her love, her very existence. Outside, Reed saw movement. 3 alien soldiers in black armor slipped through the trees like shadows. One held a torch weapon, designed not to kill, but to burn. He muttered, "Not tonight," and
"Fired, crack!"
The first shot hit hard, armor cracked, body dropped. The forest exploded in motion. 2 soldiers ducked for cover. The third raised a signal flare. Phoom! A red ball of light shot into the sky, burning bright like a second moon. The hunt had truly begun. Lyra opened the trapdoor to the basement and guided her children down. "Stay here," she whispered. "No matter what you hear, you don't come up." The younger one, Mira, held her mother's hand tightly. "Will he protect us?" Lyra paused, then kissed her daughter's forehead. "He already is." She shut the trapdoor and stood, breathing heavily. Her hands glowed faintly again. Power, buried deep inside her since birth. Power she swore she'd never use again. But tonight the past wasn't asking for permission. It was knocking with fire. Reed was out of breath, bleeding from a graze to his side. He crawled behind the woodpile near the barn as heat waves rose from the field. They'd set it on fire. The wheat Reed had planted for months, gone in seconds. Smoke filled the air. Orange flames climbed the night sky, and through the fire, she walked. Not Lyra, her sister. Tall, regal, armored like a dark queen. She walked through fire like it was fog, unbothered, elegant. She stopped 10 feet from Reed, who now stood with his gun raised. "Human," she said calmly. "You don't understand. She's broken. Her children are dangerous." Reed narrowed his eyes. "So is a mother protecting her kids. She lied to you. She always lies." "Maybe," Reed said, "but at least she bleeds." The alien queen smiled coldly. "And so will you." The fight was short, but brutal. Reed fired. She dodged. She struck with a wave of psychic force. He flew backward, hit the side of the barn hard. Before she could strike again, the cabin door burst open. Lyra stepped into the firelight. No robe, no fear. Her skin glowed like starlight. Lines of bioluminescence crawled across her arms and face like divine war paint. "Sister?" she said. The queen turned, almost surprised. "You dare show your true form? I dare protect what you never could." The queen raised her arm. Energy, charged in her palm. But Lyra was faster. She moved with speed that didn't belong to her species, lightning fast, painfully graceful. Her foot hit the earth. Boom. A shockwave threw dust and ash into the air. The fire bent away from her. The queen was knocked back, but not down. Reed crawled toward his rifle. His chest burned, vision blurred. He heard their voices, alien, sharp, sisterly, screaming in a language older than Earth itself. Suddenly, a flare of energy lit up the field like a sun. Lyra had leapt into the air, her hands pulsing, body floating just above the burning ground. Her children screamed from beneath. The trapdoor, sensing their mother's power exploding like never before. Reed grabbed his rifle again, pulled the trigger, click, empty. The queen rushed forward, spear in hand now, summoned from her armor. She struck. Lyra blocked it with her bare arm, screaming in pain but holding firm. Reed, now on his knees, threw his last weapon, a grenade. It landed between them. Boom. The blast sent both sisters flying. The fire died. The smoke rose and silence returned. Minutes passed. Then, a cough. Reed stumbled to his feet. His jacket was half burnt, blood down his face, but he was alive. He ran toward the cabin. The door was broken. The front porch smashed. He stepped in, heart pounding. The trapdoor opened. Two small heads peeked out. "Mama?" Mira whispered. "She's here," Reed said. But he wasn't sure. Then, from the field, footsteps. Lyra walked through the smoke, half limping, face bruised, lip bleeding, one arm shaking, but her eyes burned with life. Reed met her halfway. She collapsed in his arms. "You stayed," she whispered. He held her tighter. "You fought for them," he said. "So I fought for you." Blood and betrayal. The cabin smelled like ash and healing. Reed sat by the table, cleaning the cuts on his arm. Lyra lay on the floor near the fire, her children curled up beside her like frightened cubs. Outside, the alien queen's body burned, with the remains of the wheat field. No graves for monsters. But peace wasn't returning, not this time. Reed could feel it in his gut. Something still wasn't right. It started with a sound, a beep, faint, repeating. Reed's ears twitched. He scanned the room. "Do you hear that?" he asked. Lyra didn't respond. He stood and followed the sound. Slowly, carefully. The signal was coming from under the floorboards. He pried them open with the butt of his rifle. And there, tucked in a small box behind old food supplies, was a black disc the size of a coin, pulsing red. A tracker. He froze, lifted it gently, turned it in his hand. Standard military-grade alien beacon. This wasn't something planted by her enemies. This had been placed there from inside. Reed stormed into the room, holding the device like a live grenade. "Where did this come from?" Lyra looked up, confused. Reed threw it at her feet. "That's a tracking beacon. It was under your food stash." She stared at it, genuinely shocked. "That's not mine. I never—" "Don't lie to me now," he snapped. The kids shrank. Behind their mother. Reed's face was dark, eyes full of betrayal. "Did you bring them here on purpose?" "No," Lyra whispered. He stepped closer. "Are you using me? Is this another experiment? A test?" Tears welled in her eyes. "No, I swear, I never planted that." Reed didn't move. He just whispered, "Then explain it. Now." Lyra reached slowly into her robe. She pulled out the heat core, the same one she had offered days ago. Only now. He noticed it was pulsing in sync with the tracker. Her face went pale. "They modified it," she said softly. "They must have— I didn't know." Reed stepped back. "You gave me a bomb with a signal." "No!" she cried. "It's not a bomb, it's a power source. I didn't know it could be tracked. You're supposed to be one of them. You don't know how your tech works? I'm not them anymore." Silence. The fire crackled, the kids cried quietly. And Reed turned his back. That night, no one slept. Reed sat outside, staring at the half-burnt field, gun in hand. Lyra stayed inside, too ashamed to move. Even the children knew something had changed. The air was heavy now. Trust was broken. But at dawn, something stranger happened. Reed was walking around the perimeter when he noticed something shiny sticking out of the dirt near the water pump. He dug it out, and what he found made his stomach twist. A buried transmitter. Not alien. Human-made. Same military code as the weapons he once used. He checked the frequency. It matched the signal that led the aliens here. He cursed under his breath. He marched back inside and slammed the device onto the table. "Explain this," he said. Lyra shook her head. "That's not mine." "I know," Reed said coldly. "It's mine. Or was." She looked up, confused. Reed's voice was sharp. "My old unit must have tagged this place years ago. I never cleared it. It's been pinging quietly this whole time." He laughed bitterly. "All this time I blamed you. But it was me." Lyra said nothing. He sat down, heavy. "I almost turned on you. Almost hurt you." She didn't cry. Instead, she whispered, "It's all right. We all carry shadows." Reed looked at her differently now. Not as a guest. Not as a burden. But as someone who had been surviving just like him. Bleeding in silence. Trusting where she shouldn't. Holding her children. With hands that trembled but never let go. He asked softly, "Why didn't you run when I accused you?" She looked him in the eye. "Because I didn't come here to survive anymore." He raised a brow. "Then why?" She reached for his hand. "To live." That night, something shifted between them. Not romance. Not yet. But something sacred. She sat beside him, not across. He didn't touch her, but he didn't move away either. The children slept peacefully. Like for the first time in years, they felt safe. Outside, the wind calmed. Inside, the fire burned slow, and in the ashes of betrayal, something new was born. Belief. The Queen's command it began with the skies turning gold. Not sunrise, not clouds. A broadcast, every screen, every satellite, every communication line on Earth, hijacked. Old phones flickered to life. Broken radios sparked. Even off-grid tech screamed with static. Then silence. Then her voice. Smooth. Cold. Royal. To the humans sheltering our lost creation, you have something that belongs to us. In the cabin, Reed and Lyra stood frozen. The children pressed close to their mother, trembling. Reed looked at the dusty screen of his old military tablet. It hadn't worked in 5 years. Now it glowed. Alive again. And on it, a face. The alien queen. Not Lyra's sister. The one Reed had buried under ash. No, this one was older, wiser, worse. Her skin was pearl white, eyes glowing gold like suns behind glass. Her voice was not a message, it was a command. "Lyra, daughter of House Velthar, you have violated our genetic treaties. You have defiled the sovereign bloodline. You will return the hybrids. Or we will cleanse the sector. You have 3 rotations." The screen cracked and died. Silence. Reed stood, still gripping his rifle, though it felt useless now. Lyra slowly sat down, her legs shaking. Reed's voice was low. "They're not bluffing, are they?" "No," she whispered. That wasn't a warning. He looked at her. "What is cleansing the sector?" She met his eyes. Burning cities. Sterilizing soil. Turning land into glass. Reed cursed under his breath. Lyra picked up her daughter and hugged her tightly. The children didn't speak, but their breathing was shallow, their eyes wide. "They found me," she said. "They always do." Reed paced the room. "They know the kids exist," he muttered. "But how?" Lyra shook her head. "They scan DNA signatures from light years away. My blood is theirs. No matter where I run, I still glow to them." Reed stopped. "No," he said. He turned to her with new determination. "You don't glow to them anymore. You glow to me." Later that night, the stars above the cabin blinked unnaturally. Ships. Hundreds. Silent. Watching. like predators circling a wounded prey, but none attacked. Not yet. Reed studied the hills with binoculars. No ground troops, no drones. Just waiting. They're stalling, he muttered. Waiting for our decision. Lyra sat beside him on the porch. They think you'll give us up, she said, softly. Reed didn't answer. Then she asked something harder. If it comes to it, would you trade us to save your world? Reed looked at her, and for the first time, he didn't blink. No, she smiled, but it was a sad smile. Then you've already signed your death sentence. Reed walked inside and opened the cabinet he hadn't touched in years. Inside were old files, maps, contact codes for humans who'd gone dark after the war, rogue tacticians, ex-soldiers, engineers living in the shadows. He looked at Lyra. Need one day, he said. I'll call in favors, prep defenses. If I can get a message out to Earth's underground network, maybe we won't be alone when the fighting starts. She looked unsure, then said, Okay, but if you go, I stay. Reed nodded. She continued, and if you don't come back, I run. I take them and I vanish. He paused, then gave her a quiet promise. You won't have to run. The next morning, Reed was gone. Lyra stood by the cabin door watching the tree line for hours. Her children stayed inside, silent as always, but her mind wandered back to the Queen's words. Return the hybrids. She looked at her kids, Mira and Ren, beautiful, strong, gentle, but also unknown. Even she didn't fully understand what lived inside their DNA. They weren't weapons, but they weren't normal children either. Then the air changed, not wind. Pressure. Lyra looked up and saw a shadow moving above the clouds. A ship. No, a temple in the sky, miles wide. It hovered like a floating fortress, too massive to land. Then, it began glowing at the base. A beam started to form, not fired, not fast, but slow, controlled, measured, a warning shot. They were charging a cannon large enough to erase the valley. Lyra's heart raced. She rushed into the cabin, grabbed her kids, and looked out the back. Escape routes were blocked. The land itself was locked in by a field. They had deployed a gravity net. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Only one hope. Suddenly, boom, a shockwave from the north. Then another. Bright streaks in the sky. Missiles. Human tech. She ran outside and saw it. A small human aircraft zooming through the sky, dodging alien drones, firing back. The side of the ship bore a spray-painted message in red. You're not alone. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. He came back, Reed came back, and he brought warriors. The human who said no. The valley shook as the first human missile struck the alien skyship. Fire bloomed in the clouds. From the cabin rooftop, Lyra watched with wide eyes. Her children clung to her arms as the world they once feared now fought. For them, dozens of small fighter ships flew past like birds of prey, painted scrap metal machines, old Earth war tech, piloted by humans who had once been forgotten. Outcasts, veterans, ghosts of old battles, but Reed had found them, and now they had come back with teeth. Inside the cabin, Mira whispered, Mama, are we safe now? Lyra kneeled beside her and touched her forehead. No, she said gently. But now, we are not alone. Then she stood, her eyes glowing faint blue. Not with fear, with fire. Reed's ship landed in a clearing behind the cabin. The back hatch opened and he stepped out, dusty, armed, and alive. He ran toward Lyra, yelling over the roar of engines above them. We've got 12 fighters, 2 EMP launchers, and 1 working cannon. He stopped when he saw her face. She was glowing again, not just her skin, her presence. She wasn't hiding anymore. She was becoming. Reed stared at her for a long second, then said the only thing that made sense. Damn, you look like you were born to fight queens. Lyra gave him a sad smile. I was. I just never wanted to. Above them, the alien mothership responded. A deep hum vibrated through the ground. The cannon under the floating fortress began glowing white-hot. They're preparing to fire, Reed said, scanning the sky. But not at us, Lyra whispered. He looked at her. They're targeting Earth's nearest colony city. No, he muttered. No innocent lives. He grabbed his communicator. All units, change objective. Intercept the cannon. Focus fire on the underbelly. Explosions burst like fireworks across the sky as human ships changed direction. But the Queen was not done yet. She appeared again, not in the sky but in their minds, a psychic broadcast, a voice that burned straight into the soul. You defy royal command, human. You protect a traitor and her spawn. You are offered mercy, and you spit. Very well. You will be remembered as the human who said no. Reed grabbed his rifle. No, he said out loud. I'll be remembered as the one who said never again. Then the final battle began. Alien drop pods slammed into the hills. Soldiers in black armor swarmed the forest, their rifles hissing with plasma. Reed took the front, firing, shouting, moving like a man who'd been born in chaos. Beside him, Lyra fought too, but not with guns. With power. Energy poured from her. Hands, shields of light, pulses of force, waves that threw enemies into the trees like leaves in a storm. But the Queen didn't descend. She was watching, waiting. Inside the cabin, the children suddenly began to glow. Their hands pulsed with light, white and blue. Lyra gasped. They're activating, she whispered. Reed looked at her, confused. Activating what? She turned slowly. The inheritance. The Queen had never wanted to kill them. She feared them, because Lyra's children were not just hybrids. They were born from forbidden love, yes, but that love had altered the royal bloodline. It had evolved it. They weren't accidents, they were the next stage. And the Queen knew, if those children lived, her empire would die. So the sky opened one final time, and the Queen descended herself. Her ship split like an egg of light, and she floated down, surrounded by golden drones, her armor glowing with divine fury. She landed in the center of the battlefield, unarmed, but not unthreatening. Everyone paused. Even the birds went silent. She looked at Lyra, then at the children, then at Reed. You? She said, cold and sharp. You are not supposed to matter. Reed stepped forward. Gun raised, he smiled. I'm human. We never do, until we do. The Queen raised her hand, but before she could strike, the children screamed, not in pain, in power. Their small bodies lifted from the ground. Energy burst from them in waves, raw, pure, ancient. The sky cracked. The trees bowed. Even the Queen stumbled. Mira and Ren floated between their mother and the Queen, eyes glowing with starlight, voices echoing with a power no one had taught them. You are not our future. You are our past. And we are done obeying you. The Queen stepped back, terrified, for the first time in her life. She raised a command to her drones. But they melted, their circuits fried, her own armor dimmed. The children lowered themselves gently, their glow fading. They turned and ran back into their mother's arms, and the Queen disappeared in silence. No ship fired again. No drones returned. The skies cleared, and the war ended. Reed sat on the steps of the cabin covered in dust and blood, watching the clouds move like nothing happened. Lyra stood beside him, holding her children. They changed everything, he said. She nodded. They were never meant to survive, and yet they did. Reed turned to her. So what now? She looked down at her kids, then up at him. We build, she said. He raised a brow. A home? No, she smiled. A future.